EA raises concerns about Mass Effect 5 as a service. I have to say that I would think that, you know, there aren't a lot of...
Mission failed. We'll get them next time.
Yeah. I think the problem here is that most companies don't know how to do games as a service very well. Okay, so it's not that you know, games as a service, live service games can't be done very well. It's that most companies don't know how to do it very well because it's all too often done in a very greedy manner that has, you know, the player base is not a concern. It's just greed mongering and you know, polluted with microtransactions and, you know, season passes and it's even harder, I think, when you take a look at trying to convert a long-standing iconic franchise or series into or even a notable one. For instance, you know, we've got Crafton apparently turning you know, the Subnautica is looking like it's going to be a game as a service quite potentially moving forward with Subnautica 2. I think that when you talk about Mass Effect being Bioware and Bioware being under EA, Electronic Arts, most people are going to look at most people already have worries about Mass Effect 5. Let's be fair, okay? Most people already have significant worries about what Mass Effect 5 would turn out to be like, just because of the quality of Bioware software has... I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I mean, it's really gone downhill since they went underneath Electronic Arts, right? And now you're talking about turning this series, the next entry, into a live service model, yeah? Which, let's be fair, EA is not known for really giving a hot flying crap about, you know, player base or fan base or consumer base. It's all about money. It's all about greed. And so with the already inherent worries, I think, for the community and fan base behind Mass Effect about what Mass Effect 5 could be, now you're going to have, what else do we have to worry about with what they're going to try to do with Mass Effect 5 as a service here, unfortunately. So this is a really unfortunate thing to hear, IMO, in this. And it's not that I can't necessarily see it being done in some kind of manner that would be massively effective. That was terrible. I'm really sorry. It's not that I can't see it being done well, right? It's just that I can't necessarily see it being done well by Bioware and Electronic Arts, right? I mean, how often do we watch the industry right now try to emulate one another to a disgustingly, you know, just putrid level? It's so polluted with as a service, 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 extraction shooter, extraction shooter, extraction shooter, extraction shooter, or, you know, extraction game, whatever, PvP extraction, I guess is a better way to describe that. And it's just, how many times have we seen that fail as well, right? I mean, at this point, with as polluted as those genres are in the industry, it's like winning the lottery, dude, to hit something that actually does well and sustains long term in that arena. And so it's always a bit worrisome to see these titles take on this type of notion when a lot of these big development companies that at one time were great with software have really lost the essence of what it means to make great games anymore, and they're just money hungry, right? And we've seen it happen so many times with live service games anymore, whether you want to talk about Suicide Squad or Skull and Bones being a quadruple A game, or I mean, the list goes on and on and on. But there are great ways to do live service games, and there are real scummy ways to do live service games. But the most important thing about sustainability in a live service game is that it has to have components that are engaging enough and fun enough and unique enough to sustain, to initially bring in a player base, right? It has to also sustain that player base with continual content. And most of these developers anymore don't seem like they understand that concept of having to have a player base behind a live service game. It's all about, well, let's just worry about money first and recoup as much of that development cost as we can as fast as possible. And it's always to their detriment because they're not worried about content. They're not worried about gameplay. Games are mediocre. And so the player base is mediocre to begin with and falls off real quick, and then there's nobody there to play, so nobody else wants to buy the game, and so it fails, and it's beyond me that these companies can't get that right. But would I be surprised if this was the same thing that happened to Mass Effect 5 being an as-a-service game? Absolutely not, coming from underneath Bioware and EA. I don't know. I guess that's my initial sentiments on this situation. Let's read this and see what they say. EA has been very upfront about how it was disappointed in the performance of Dragon Age The Veilguard, where it only got half the players that the company wanted to see, but this week its explanation for why it believes that happened is baffling and should very much concern potential players of the upcoming Mass Effect 5, possibly BioWare's last hope as a studio. The reason being is that the lesson learned from Veilguard, according to EA CEO Andrew Wilson, is that the game did not have live service aspects. God dang, bro. A genuinely stunning take. Here's what he said. You know what this tells me? Andrew Wilson is a business person that doesn't understand the gaming industry. He's not a gamer. This is a business person at the top of a gaming company that is not a gamer and doesn't understand gamers. That's what this tells me immediately. In order to break out, this is a quote, in order to break out beyond the core audience, games needed to directly connect to the evolving demands of players who increasingly seek shared world features and deeper engagement alongside high-quality narratives in this beloved category, Wilson said. Dragon Age had a high-quality launch and was well-reviewed by critics and those who played. However, it did not resonate with a broad enough audience in this highly competitive market. Logic here is wild. The idea that what people didn't like about the game or why they were not interested in it is that Veilguard did not totally break with the series and have shared world or live service aspects, as if that would have encouraged more play, right, rather than even less. Not a single person outside of EA agrees with this logic, and BioWare itself reportedly rejecting an EA development mandate to make the game live service, and instead it turned back to being a traditional single-player RPG. That didn't save it clearly, but it also led to a lot of wasted development time and some awkward holdover aspects of the original concept. Now, logic dictates that if Veilguard failed as a single-player RPG and EA is stating outright it's because it wasn't a shared world, what can that possibly mean for Mass Effect 5? All anyone wants from the game is something comparable to the original Mass Effect trilogy, where it was almost entirely focused on its central single-player campaign that was not a shared world at all and didn't need to be currently imagining a bunch of shepherds running around the Citadel. Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind here is that it's true that Mass Effect has had multiplayer components, ones that were actually pretty well received back when that was a thing single-player games were sometimes doing. Assassin's Creed, Last of Us, Factions. The difference is that those modes were not live. There were not seasons to these Mass Effect multiplayer editions, but you can see how that might change. I don't even know if it's possible for Mass Effect's campaign itself to change to some sort of shared world shooter at this point, given where it is in development. Mass Effect 76, is that what we're going to get here? Given where it is in development, which would be insane, game director Michael Gamble has promised it would be a traditional Mass Effect experience, where previously that seemed to be a reference to Veilguard changing its aesthetic and tone compared to the rest of the series, but it is abundantly clear that EA is going to try to jam in live service aspects here, and this time probably won't take no for an answer. Can Bioware fight off this very, very bad idea? I'm not sure they have a leg to stand on after 3 missed games, even if they know it's not what fans are going to want from the series. They barely have personnel to stand on anymore after so many people being released. This is it for them. And unfortunately, they're going to do whatever EA forces them to do. I'm going to say it right now. Exactly, Ferret. I think BioWare's dead. I think BioWare's been dead. I think it's been a long, drawn-out death, unfortunately. How many times have we seen EA grind subsidiaries into the ground, though? I mean, do I think it's all EA's fault? No, not necessarily. But, you know, is it a coincidence that a lot of the, BioWare issues and the downfall of a lot of what BioWare has done coincides with them falling underneath EA? I don't think so. Without more than a few teasers and nothing close to a release date, we don't know when we're going to find out. Yeah, I agree, Ferret. I think BioWare is dead. I think they're literally just a walk. I mean, let's be fair. BioWare has been a shell of who they were for some time. Everybody has hoped for a while that BioWare would make a comeback and show us that they still have something left in the tank. And we're at least some semblance of who they once were. And it just hasn't happened. And so, as much as people love some of these iconic franchises that BioWare made, I think BioWare's done. I think BioWare's been done. And great job, EA. Once again.